And we're coming to the end now. This is just about ready to come up. This has been a fabulous tomato. It's actually grown right the way around the top, but it's nearly to the end. I've got a few more to harvest, and then this tomato is finished for the season. So that was great. I like to try and use things a second time. So I had a really great, in South Africa we call them mealies, but here they're called corn. So I had fabulous corn this year. You can see the corn stalks. So what I do at the end of the season, I've harvested my corn, which was just fabulous. And now I plant beans or peas, and they climb the stalk. So there's a little bean at some of them I've already planted, some I haven't planted yet. So that's why these are sitting here. I don't think they're just there for aesthetics, because they're not. So judging by the moon calendar cycle, this weekend is the time to harvest. So we will be harvesting shortly these beautiful chilies. You'll see as the leaves start going yellow, the cold weather, the chilies don't like it. So the shiny chilies, we're going to bottle. A very easy recipe. It's almost like making pesto with chilies, and it's delicious. I always know when my garden is a little bit dry, because this rhubarb always tells me it starts to droop. Then I know there's not enough water in this garden, but it looks okay today. You can see, look at the sunburn here. That's also from that really hot weather that we've just had, but that's nothing to worry about. You might wonder what's going on here. When I'm harvesting rhubarb for rhubarb pie, I take the rhubarb right at the bottom. You just give it the tiniest little tug and it comes away. If it doesn't come away, it's not ready to harvest. I cut the end, and nothing in my garden is wasted. Absolutely nothing is wasted. What do I do with this gorgeous leaf? It's poisonous, so don't eat it. You can't eat it. But I use it as a mulch. As I said to some people, they know I'm a very, very lazy gardener. And I don't like to weed if I don't need to. So I'm just going to pop these leaves upside down, and it's a fabulous mulch. So that's what I do with my rhubarb leaves. You might notice this little fellow growing on the ground here. I'm all into brain power, and brahmi is one of those fabulous herbs. So it's creeping all the way the ground here. And that's another little one that tells me stories. When it's too dry, I know the brahmi starts looking very unhappy. Now, of course, rose pelargonium and rosemary, and for that matter, the shallots, they have a great survival instinct. They don't droop. You don't really know when they're thirsty, but the neighboring plants tell me. For those of you who've watched a previous video that I talked about the moon cycle, these are the rather sad snake beans that were planted out of the moon cycle, where my magnificent snake beans over there were the ones planted in the moon cycle. So they're at the end of the season, and beans will be growing up those stalks. And this is the other chili, which is ready to harvest. And the chili will go from season to season. If I get frost, I might have to dig it up, put it in a pot, take it onto the patio, and then replant it in the ground again in early spring after the frost. I must say I'm a little excited about the prospect of harvesting today, because if you look under there are some awesome sweet potatoes. The one, as I said, is the size of a rugby ball. Look at it. It's massive. Anyway, we're going to harvest. There's a whole bundle there. When it comes to sweet potatoes, they really do not like the frost. So once the frost is on its way, when the frost comes, that's when the sweet potatoes can get infected, and then you lose your crop. So I'm going to harvest before that happens. My butternuts were growing here. So the butternuts I've already harvested, they're finished. The sweet potatoes have taken over that half, and I've now planted some onions here and calendula. Now, for those of you that don't know what calendula is, I've got 6 here and I've got 6 over there. So I've got 12 calendula, which will give me enough petals to make my calendula cream for the year. So I make an infused oil and I make a calendula cream. But these I've just planted because calendula is a winter flowering herb. So I'm really excited. It's the first time I'm planting calendula in this garden. You might look at this rather weird looking thing and wonder what is going on. You've got a spinach growing out of a bale of hay. Well, when I first moved in here, I didn't have a garden because it was just a jungle. So I got some bales delivered, and this whole length here were just bales, and I planted my vegetables in the bales, and that's the last of the vegetables. So I'm going to use that as mulch for a raised garden that we're going to be doing later in the segment. I have about 4 or 5 different mints in the garden, and I'm nursing this one a little bit because it's apple mint. It makes the most beautiful jelly, and it's got the most delicious flavor, but it didn't move well from our previous property, but it is now just taking off, and I'm so happy. And you know, what about you people who don't have a garden? Have you ever thought about having a whole series of hanging gardens? They can hang one over the other down a wall. Look how beautiful that looks. You can have vegetables in there as well. It is the end of the season, so this, when I say get close and intimate with your garden, what is this telling me? This is telling me, I've had enough, I'm out of here. So we are going to harvest the pumpkins that are left. I've had about 17 pumpkins already, and we've got about 5 or so which we will harvest later in the day. It's interesting, this little patch of garden here is so sandy, you water it and the water's gone. So this is a bit of a high maintenance area. The tilbachia is coping really well, but I can tell you, the celery at the end there and the artichokes have taken quite a while to take off because it's not holding water. So what I've done is I've pulled the mulch back, I've added horse manure, which helps build the soil, and I'm hoping that over time this patch here will have better holding properties, because at the moment it's not good. And it's very different in different parts of the garden. So you've got to take time to just communicate with your plants. They tell you all kinds of things. I'm really excited here. Look what we've got here. These are my leeks. Now you might think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 leeks. That's not going to last me very long. Well, I just thought, I don't want to plant hundreds and hundreds of leeks if the area is not suitable for it. So I planted them in a gully. I dug the gully out, I planted them in the gully, and what you have to do is heap up with this mulch, it's a specific bark, so that you keep the stalk of your leek beautiful and white and really not all hard, but delicious and juicy. And then the strongest plant, like we did earlier, I'm looking at the moment, it looks like it could be this one or that one. The strongest plant is the only one that I allow to flower. It'll flower and get a beautiful big head, and when it's in full flower, I actually almost shave it. I take the top of the flower off. The plant gets such a shock. You know what it does? It sends out baby leeks. So those are my leeks for the next season. I just pick them off and plant them. How interesting is that? So that's how nature protects itself. So we didn't allow that seed head to go to seed. We cut the flower tops off the seed head, and it shot up little baby leeks, and that's what starts your new plant. But you use the strongest leek for your next season's crop. Well, here's another one. The broccoli, a little bit for them, a little bit for us. I'm not prepared to spray, so the worms are having a fabulous feast here. Well, that's that. This is the first season I've ever planted peanuts. I'm quite excited. It's not time to harvest yet, but pretty soon I'll be harvesting, and that'll be fabulous. Well, I think those would be nice for breakfast, don't you? Look at these yummy snow peas. Oh, I think they'll be nice for breakfast. Now, a little tip when you're growing snow peas. You know, they don't have eyes. and they don't have ears, but they've got these long tentacles. If you take little branches like this and help them, look at this one. It's still wanting to grow out there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just stick that in there and help this little tentacle to come a little closer so it will grow very nicely up the tree. Instead of growing out here and falling over and being blown over, it holds onto these little sticks. That's why you see all these little sticks here. It's to help the peas grow up. You might be wondering what this rather unusual display of wine bottles are in my garden. Well, it's not to show off that I drink champagne and Chardonnay and Shiraz and all of that, because it's not all my bottles. I've been asking friends to please help me because I haven't, as you can see, I still haven't finished this little garden. And my garden is a work in progress. So the winter's coming on and I like to grow coriander. That's a question I get all year round. I can't grow coriander. How do you grow coriander? The morning sun is going to shine on these bottles and they're beautifully warm already. I'm going to just take the mulch away. I'm going to line the bottles with some compost and some potting mix. And I'm going to sow the seed directly in position. And I'm going to have beautiful coriander for the whole of the winter. Now, coriander goes to seed in summer. So don't even try and grow coriander in summer. Unless you've got somewhere really cool in the shade, that's possible. But coriander does not like the heat. And certainly here in Sydney it gets too hot, much too hot. Tasmania would work. In fact, Wentworth Falls might work. But not here in Sydney. It's too hot for coriander. A couple of mornings ago, when I came out here, I noticed that a wombat had been in my garden. Now, for those of you who don't know what a wombat is, it's a big, fat creature. It walks slowly like this on 4 legs, but it's got a huge, big, fat tummy and it's really heavy. And look what it did. Look what it did. It marched through here. It killed the pansies. It desiccated or it demolished this poor. There's its partner. These are blueberries, which are just coming into flower. So I want to have lovely blueberries in winter. What's left of that? And this hole here, all of this mulch had been kicked all over, and there was a great big hole here where he obviously must have rested for the night. If I lift it up, you can still see where he was. He was underneath here in this hole. So I was not impressed. And then yesterday morning, look where he's been. Whether it's the same one, I don't know. But all of this was flattened because these leaves were right across here, and he doesn't eat anything. I don't know what he's doing here, but anyway, he's been in my garden. But I'm really lucky. Australians who garden without fences have to deal with possums. I don't have possums here. So the possums would eat half of what's growing in my garden. This is the best part. I eat some, I pick some, and some get to the kitchen. And these are my beautiful tomatoes for breakfast. So we're just going to take them off, lovely red juicy tomatoes, straight off the vine. And these are little wild tomatoes. They're just yummy. So that's the tour that I do in the garden in the morning, just to get close and intimate with my plants. So I know what I have to do, I know what their needs are, and plan it into my day. So if you like that little clip and you want to hear more about organic gardening, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please go to my website. You can download this beautiful organic gardening ebook, and there's lots more information there. So you just pop into the shop and it's yours. Have a wonderful day gardening organically.